Hi, so this is just a quick video to run through how to add a blog to the Wales Best Guides website. As guides, it would be really great if everyone can start adding blog content periodically because it just helps with search engine rankings and things like that with the site. And I'm sure you guys have got loads of ideas of things that could be really interesting to add to the websites. So if you want to add a blog to the site, you'll need to be logged in. So if you head to your listing, you'll basically see a button over here that says Add Blog Post. If you click this, it'll open up the editor, which allows you to add blog posts to the website. The first thing that you'll want to probably do is give your blog a title. So for the purpose of this, we'll just call it Test Blog. Now, when you're blogging, there's a few things to remember, one of which is that blogs should ideally be about 300 words long. Anything less isn't really going to get picked up by the search engines, and that's kind of the point with blogs, is to be picked up by the search engines. So the way that you can do this is obviously making sure that your content is long enough, but also that you use keywords and things. So location keywords are quite important, which will be hopefully quite applicable to the work that you guys are doing. So, if you guide in a certain area, for example, St. David's in Pembrokeshire, you might want to create a blog that's 10 things to do in St. David's. Those blogs normally are pretty good for people searching. Generally speaking, you kind of want to think how your users are thinking. So if, for example, people are searching 10 things to do in St. David's, the likelihood is that they're on holiday. And then when they stumble across your site, the chances are they might think that, hiring a guide is a good way to see things. So it's about making relevant content for your audience. So stick to kind of 300 words and get some keywords in there like location, things to do, places to see, and all of that sort of stuff. And that's all really good content then to get picked up. So when you're building a blog, it works with blocks basically. So with WordPress, you have a plethora of blocks that you can use to build up a page. One block that you might use at the top of the blog might be a cover block. This one's quite good to be able to kind of add a bulk of colour and be able to put a title over the top. So it's a good little visual intro to the blog. And then you can also change the colours over here. So you can highlight the text and change it to white if that looks better on the colour you've picked. Or you can go in and change the colours just like this. And these preset colours would be the ones to stick to because they're the colours that are the branding colours basically. So it just means that the site keeps looking really in keeping with the rest of the site. So always use the colours that are predefined here if possible. You've also got some other options like you can do, opacity of the overlay and things like that. So there's a few different visual options that you can have a play with. The next block that I would always recommend using throughout the blog is a spacer block. And basically these just make sure that your blocks have a little bit of a gap between them, and it just makes the blog look a little bit easier on the eye once you have a look at it on the front end. Spacer blocks of about 50 between your blocks is a good place to start, but you may want to obviously adjust this depending on how it looks. And then from there, you've basically just got options. Obviously, the block you'll most likely use the most is the paragraph block. So this just allows you to type in paragraphs across the blog. And you can build up paragraphs from there. Another quite handy one, especially if you're doing a blog on like 10 things to see and do, is maybe some bullet points. So you can grab the list block, and that basically just gives you bullet points then, which you can add to. The other blocks that you'll most likely want to use as well are headings. So really important with blog content actually to use headings throughout. It helps to the search engine understand what your blog is about, but also it breaks it up for the user as well. So if you're going to write a blog, I definitely suggest kind of segmenting it down into a few headings and then obviously having content underneath those headings. So you can select a heading block, and you've also got the option of changing the size of the heading. So it's quite good to have a H1, which is the biggest size at the top, and then use H2s throughout them for all of your subheadings. And then obviously the one that will make it visually look good are images or gallery. So with an image, you can select the block and you can basically add images in here then. So you can add, URLs of images. One thing that I would say is make sure you own the copyright to your image. So if you're going to use stock images, make sure you've either paid for them and you've got the license to use them, or you use free stock images. Other than that, the safest way is to make sure you're using images that you have taken yourself. So yeah, just be really cautious with that, because if you do add any photos that are copyrighted and you get caught for it, they can basically send you fines. So obviously they'd send it to the administrators of the website, which in your case, where it's kind of like sort of, it's a site that's operated by many different people, it would be a bit of a sticky situation to get into. So just make sure that you've either purchased the photos and you've got the license to use them for commercial gain, and also, yeah, just don't use anything that is, you can't just take images off Google. You have to make sure you either own the licenses, they're free stock images that are allowed to be used for commercial gain, or you've taken the photos yourself. So, like I say, safe side, just use photos you've taken. The next one then is a gallery block, and this one works in a similar way where you can drag and drop basically images into here to be able to kind of have multiple photos side by side. It's saying that I need permission at the minute because I haven't actually, this is just a test user that I'm using, which I haven't actually given full permissions to, but gallery blocks are there to be used as well. And from there, there's a lot of different blocks you can basically have a play around with. The best thing is to kind of just test the blocks, see what they do, and add your content as you go along. A lot of them you'll probably never touch. Even myself, who works on websites daily, has actually never touched a lot of the blocks. It's normally in these first 3 sections of the blocks that you'll probably want to use. Anything sort of widgets and below, I wouldn't bother touching. They're not kind of frequent blocks that you'll need to use. One block that you might find quite handy is the YouTube embed. So if you're a guide that uploads videos to your own YouTube channel, or there's videos that you want to reference, never upload them to the media library directly to the website, just because obviously it'll take a lot of storage and it'll slow the website down. So the brilliant block to use in this case is the YouTube one, and when you add it, you can just paste the link to the video that you want to embed, and it'll embed the video straight onto the page so that people can watch it on the page, but it's just not being sort of stored on the site. But yeah, other than that, blogs are pretty straightforward. So like I say, it might be that you add a cover, some headings, bullet points, paragraphs, and photos. If you're feeling like you want to push the boat out, maybe a YouTube video. But other than that, it's more about getting the words onto the page rather than everything else. Generally speaking, blogs are more for search engines than users, so it's more about getting people onto your site. But yeah, it's basically for the search engines. So keeping them quite simple with just text and headings and things is the way to go. Once you're happy that you've had a play, basically what you can do then is save the draft. And if you click that, you can then click this little icon of a laptop next to it and click the preview in new tab. That will then open the blog in a new tab as if you're looking at it from the front end. So like I said before, the editor quite often doesn't look the same as how the blog looks on the front end. It's more just sort of a rough visual representation of how it'll look. So it's always best to open it in the preview it in the new tab, and then basically you can have a play from there. So if you think that something's not looking quite right, you can come back to the editor and sort of wiggle it about a little bit until you're happy. Once you're completely happy with the blog and you're ready for it to go live for the world to see, what you will need to do is click the big blue submit for review button. Once that's clicked, basically it will notify the administrators on the website, and then they can go in and check that they're happy for the content to go live. This was just a safety precaution, just in case for any reason any spam got uploaded or something like that, just so that obviously there is some control from the admins as to what gets posted on the website. But yeah, it's relatively simple with the blocks. You just go through and sort of style it up however you want, and then once you're happy, like I say, you can preview it and then just submit it for review, and then once the administrators have approved it, it'll go live. So that's pretty much how to add blogs. Obviously, if you've got any questions at all, you can always ask Keith or Sean, and I'm sure they can drop me an email and we can get any questions answered. But yeah, other than that, just have some fun with it and try and blog as frequently as you can, really. So that's all for now. Thank you.